Wonderful. So welcome everybody. Like we said a few times, this is for the rising 12th graders, class of 2024. And tonight we're going to talk about all the things to come in senior year, class registration, college and career options and ideas and all that kind of thing. So we're going to get started now. I'm Becky Bellini, one of the counselors. Kelly?
Kelly Falcone, another counselor.
And Cheryl Youngberg, another counselor.
Okay, I'm going to share my screen here to see the slides. Okay, thinking that worked. Yeah.
Yeah, I
Okay,
think I can also see your bookmarks bar, Miss Bellini. If you want to close out, we might be able to make the screen a little bigger.
I don't know how to do that.
Oh, well, then it's fine as is.
Are we good? Okay. On my screen, it's the entire screen. That's all I can see.
Okay.
Okay, so like I said, for today, we're going to, oh, you know what? Now I know why it's doing that. So when I hit slideshow, sorry, everybody, you're not actually seeing the slideshow when I do that, are you?
No.
Okay, well, I don't know why that. So I'll just stay, I'll stay here. Here we go. Okay, so the overview for tonight, like we said, we're getting ready for senior year. So we're going to talk about class registration. I mean, this is old hat for all of you in this meeting, so same process we've always had. We'll talk about the class choices and requirements for senior year for both graduation and high school graduation and college admissions, transcripts and grades, online registration process, and then Naviance and career and college planning, and a bit more. Okay, so we always like to start with who is my counselor. So you can see we are divided based on alpha. So you look at the first letter of your, and sometimes up to three, first letters of your last name, and you can see who your counselor is there. We make every effort to keep counseling the same each year, but with enrollment, it does change a little bit here and there. We also have additional support on campus for students. Miss Mullins, she doesn't have an assigned alphabet. She's there just for additional emotional support for our kids. Miss Goldenberg runs the Wellness Center, and we have Miss Nichols, our wonderful College and Career Center coordinator. So all of the people listed there, our entire job is to help you through this process and whatever else comes up for you while you're here at Cal High with us. Okay, so we're going to jump right into registering for classes and starting with what the requirements are for 12th graders. There are actually only two real requirements for every 12th grader, English and Gov and Econ. So you can see we've listed out the options for 12th grade English there. And students, you also received like a gold registration sheet from us last week in your classes. So if you have that handy, not a bad idea to pull it out and take notes on there if you like, but there's all of your choices for English. Every student needs an English class every year. So 4 years of English is required for both high school graduation and for your college admissions. We do have an AP option, and as it says there, you always want to make sure that you are meeting the recommendations for any AP class and chat with your English teacher this year if you're thinking about maybe signing up for AP next year. The next one is Gov and Econ. So every student needs to finish a government class and an Econ class. We have AP and regular options for both of those. The thing to keep in mind about that is that the standard classes, the non-AP classes, are both 1 semester each. So for the vast majority of students, Gov and Econ will take up 1 spot in your schedule all year long. And then the AP options are both year long. So AP Gov, you take it all year, AP Econ, you take it all year, but you can mix and match like AP Gov and then 1 semester of regular Econ or vice versa. So those are really the only two requirements that all seniors must take. And then the way you fill in the rest is based on what you still need to take for high school graduation requirements, and then what you want to take for your passions, what you're interested in, and then what any colleges that you might be thinking about attending require. So we really do recommend 4 years of math for every student. One of our wonderful math teachers just sent out an article last week about the benefits of a 4th year of math. And it was really just kind of across the board, more success across the board when you take more math in high school. So we do recommend that for every student. 3 science courses are recommended for most for your colleges, so we'll recommend that. World language, depending on what you've already taken. And then obviously we have so many wonderful electives, you know, whether it be our performing arts, our visual arts, CTE electives, just tons of options for our students, especially as seniors. Things open up to you that you didn't have access to before. And then the only thing to keep in mind also is that every student must be enrolled in 5 classes. So you've got to do at least 5, and then depending on what you still need to fill in, you could go up to 7, but every student must be in at least 5. We always
I think the GovEcon thing, as always, it's probably the most confusing part. So just re-explaining that we do need to have both of them, even if you are choosing the AP that's a year long, you still need to take both government and economics in some form.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, that's California high school graduation requirements, both of those classes. Most of you probably remember doing that as well in high school. That hasn't changed much over the years. We do always like to just put this out there about AP and honors courses that, you know, we offer these advanced courses for the opportunity for deep learning and subjects that students have a particular interest. Of course, there's additional time commitment involved when you're enrolling in one of these more advanced courses. We want students to really think about that before they do so. And again, this isn't new for any of you. We recommend at max 2 AP or honors classes, and that's the maximum. Students don't need to take any if they don't want to. Students can be admitted to college without taking AP classes. There's a lot of misconceptions out there about the need to do that, and you don't need to do that. So be thinking carefully about that. If you do sign up for one of these, it should be in a subject area that is your favorite. You know, I love reading, I love writing, so I'm going to take AP English because you are going to be spending more time. So we'd hope that that time that you're spending, you're enjoying, because it's a subject area that you really want to learn more about. We do have an AP and honors contract that we do require students and parents to read. And it just talks about what I'm saying here, that, you know, you are committing to, you know, more time and effort on your part outside of class. So AP classes don't follow the 30-minute on average homework policy that we have in the district and things like that. And that there might sometimes not be an option for you to drop down to the regular class, just depending on space in those classes. So that contract will be posted on our website and shared with the students once we know what they've signed up for. And again, balancing your schedule and just your school schedule, but also just your life, right? With what are the things that I'm going to need to be able to do this year? What other time commitments do I have? Am I making sure that I'm going to have enough time for sleep, family time, friends, fun? Do I work? You know, for a lot of students, they're going to be working on their college applications, which is a big time commitment. So we just want to make sure that we're thinking about the fact that there are 24 hours in each day for all of us. And that is finite. So we don't want to overcommit. And we always want to remind everyone to check out the course catalog for recommendations for these classes. So, you know, what grade do you maybe want to have earned in your class this year before signing up for an AP or honors class next year? Okay, I also like to just briefly talk on non-district courses. We know that we have some students who like to take classes either at a local community college or an online program, and you are welcome to do so. We also just like to say, just like with AP, there's no requirement to do this and you're not behind if you don't. So this tends to kind of taper off quite a bit when we get to senior year. We have much fewer seniors doing this than other grade levels, but you have all the time you need to take everything that you need at Cal High. So we want to make sure that you're taking your classes with us and enjoying your summers doing other things that you can learn in other ways that are outside the classroom. There is a website on the district page that's completely dedicated to explaining how to do this if you want to. So it's important that families read those procedures really closely, because there's date deadlines and things like that that you need to be aware of. So that is linked, and we'll be sharing these slides out when we're done, so you can have a link to that as well. It is imperative that if students are choosing to do this, especially for a class that's required for graduation, that they let us know. We will be hounding you otherwise. You know, if you say you're taking government online or something and I don't see proof of that, I'm going to be calling you into my office a lot so that I can make sure you're getting it done. that's the one thing, it takes it out of our view to make sure you're making positive progress, and that makes your counselor a little bit worried. So we will be chatting with you about that if you choose that option. Okay, this is here. Again, we don't need to go through this. You have done this the last 3 years. So you log into Infinite Campus, you put your choices into the portal. The thing I really like to make sure that you know is that this is like a low stakes activity, in the way that if you make a mistake, it's totally fine, because we are going to meet with you one-on-one to do what we call your junior grad check, to make sure that your transcript is all good, that you have everything you need, that the classes you signed up for next year are exactly what you need based on your post-high school goals, and that nothing has fallen through the cracks. So if you make a mistake during the online registration, or you change your mind or something like that, we are going to sit down together and go over it, where we have full access to change it. So get your choices in there sometime between the 1st and the 10th. It's not first come, first serve. You just get it sometime in there in those 10 days. And then we'll sit down with you the week of March 20th to go over it together and make sure that everything is good to go.
I will say one other thing that's happening tomorrow is the course offerings fair. So that's a great time for students to get to check out some of the options for classes. I know that several of our senior English courses, because I think we have 6 different options, many of those will be represented. So it's a really great time to go and get to hear directly from teachers and students about what those classes are like. So make sure your student doesn't miss that tomorrow during student support.
Yeah, and that'll be hard to miss, right? It's a big event happening on campus. Students are getting released from class early into student support, so they can come to the event center and come to teachers' classrooms to see what's what. It's the best way to find out about a class. The teacher will be there. Some of the teachers have students coming to talk about the program. So if you've got questions about certain classes like iQuest, a few students have come to ask me about that. It's just open to seniors, so you've never had access to it before, but if you don't kind of know what it is, then find out tomorrow. Go talk to the iQuest teachers. Okay, so next is credits and grades. What do you need for a high school diploma versus going directly to a 4-year university? And I'll hand it over to Kelly.
Excellent. Yes, the good news is many of our courses and grades do align very well with what the colleges expect. So just kind of I'm just going to highlight the differences really, because I don't need to spend a lot of time talking about the similarities. So for math, for high school graduation, it's 2 years of math that are required, with algebra needing to be one of those. And for a 4-year college, you do need to get through algebra 2. And like Ms. Blaney was saying earlier, that 4th year of math really is recommended, even if students have already taken 4 years of math by starting math earlier in middle school. Colleges have really communicated that they do want to see math in the senior year, helps them stay up on their foundations and be ready to tackle that college level math. It's a hard subject to take a break from. So they are saying that they would like to see math in the senior year. Science, same requirements, just a 3rd year is recommended. The world language fine art is where it's a little bit different between high school graduation and the college requirements. For high school graduation, you need to meet 2 of those 3 categories by taking 1 year. So the world language, fine arts, which are our visual and performing arts classes, and then applied arts, which are also thought of as our vocational classes. So things that are that vocational art category that people might not be as familiar with are things like our culinary arts pathway, or careers in teaching, engineering, biomedical. We have quite a few that are definitely worth checking out. A lot of them are college prep as well. It's just not a college requirement. So for high school graduation, any 2 out of those 3 categories. For college requirements, they do want to see 2 years of the same world language, and they have stated they prefer a 3rd year, and then they do need 1 year of fine art. For elective credits, I think this trips people up sometimes, because they think that certain classes are what counts as elective, when in reality, exceeding any of these things that many of our students do by a long shot do count towards elective. So for example, because a 3rd year of math isn't required for high school, that does count as elective credit. So yes, they need to get to a total of 220, which is really the goal. And if your student is regularly passing their classes, then I wouldn't worry about that. And then we'll talk a little bit about summer school and credit recovery later on. PE and health are not graduation requirements, or are not college requirements. They are graduation requirements, and graduating from high school is a college requirement. So I guess in that way they are, but you're not going to be putting that on your college applications. In terms of the grades, for high school graduation, a D- or better does earn you your 5 credits per semester per class. For UC-CSU, they are looking at a C- or better. Other four-year colleges, and I feel like you should probably get used to hearing that it depends, because thankfully our UC-CSUs are pretty well aligned within the campuses, but private and out-of-state schools, they get to make their own rules. So a lot of them will accept, do need C- or better, but some of them might accept Ds as well. And that would be something to talk to those individual colleges about.
And I'll just add, just based on a couple of questions, that
Sure.
the course catalog can be found on the district website. I think the best way to do it is to just Google SRVUSD course catalog. That's going to be the fastest way to get there. We also link it on our website. It's linked on the district website, but good old Google, I find, is the fastest. And seniors do have priority for course registration in terms of getting into electives. It's a fairly complicated situation with scheduling and making sure all the classes fit together, but a senior won't get bumped if it fits in their schedule for a junior, for example. So that's the easiest way to explain that.
Yeah, and if you have questions about which classes count as what, the course catalog is a great place to see that, or those sheets that went home with your senior, the goldenrod ones, that's posted on our website as well, and it has indications of subject categories as well as A through G categories are denoted by the little letter to the left of the course name. So I would advise checking that out. All right, so this is what our Cal High transcripts look like. You would be able to see your transcript or your student's transcript in their student portal under the documents section. So at this point, they've got 11th grade semester 1 figured out. They're working on semester 2 right now. The goal for the end of this year would be to have at least 150 credits to be on track for graduation. If they're wanting to take 5 classes, they would need to have at least 170 by the end of this year. And then, yeah, it says 50 credits of elective. If you're only doing 2 out of those 3 categories that I talked about earlier, the world language, fine art, and vocational art, it would be more like 60. Again, we're really looking to get to that 220, that golden number that we're looking for a high school diploma. And then of course, making sure those specific subject areas look good. So we always advise, you know, humans are fallible. So at the end of every semester, making sure that all the grades looked right, nothing was inputted wrong, that, you know, it shows that you're earning the credits in your classes are recorded correctly. Just getting those errors figured out. We do a really good job with the vast majority, but every once in a while something will slip through. So taking a peek at that.
Oh, sorry.
This is also where you can find your, it's not on this, obviously we couldn't share student data, but your SSID number, I feel like is a common question we start to get. That is your state student identifier that students will start needing for some different things that they'll do. So that's on your transcript as well. All right, so like I said, we talking a little bit about summer school. The district summer school is only for students to remediate grades. So that would be Ds or Fs. It's not for advancement. It's not to get a better passing grade. It's only for those Ds or Fs. So how our process works for this is in those junior grad check meetings, we'll sit down with your student, review their transcript, and identify any areas where summer school would be needed. At that point, we would put their name on a list that would be submitted to the district, and then the parent will later be emailed an application for the student to be able to do summer school. So the dates are up here for you to check out. There's 2 different sessions. Each one is 3 weeks. And then it goes from 8:30 till about 1 o'clock. And it is at Doherty this year. And it's an opportunity to make up 2 semester classes. So any students that are more than 10 credits deficient will also need to look at their senior year schedule more closely to get everything figured out. We do have an online credit recovery program that's available for seniors, but it is not college prep. So it's purely to earn those credits for high school graduation. So that's for Fs only. It's not to remediate Ds because it is not college prep.
Oh, sorry. Oh, there we go.
Okay. All right. So Naviance is our college and career readiness platform. Students have access to it through their student portals. So if they go to portal.srvusd.net, they'll get access to this. And we showed them how to do it when we met with them in the theater. Oh gosh, Miss Blaney, what was that, a month ago? It's all a blur, but we did talk with your...
November, December, something like that.
Oh, time flies. So yes, we did meet with them, showed them this tool. They had been on it before. There's a lot of different self-discovery resources in it. I think it's really useful for students who are trying to figure out how their strengths can align with future career choices, building career awareness, what careers are out there. I know for me, it was like, I knew about the jobs that were in my family and maybe my friends' parents had. So this is a way to kind of further those horizons, see what else is out there. And of course, do some of that college searching as well. One of the things that we recommend to your juniors is that they use the Supermatch tool, which can help them take that big, huge list of all the colleges out there and really narrow it down based on their criteria and what's important to them. There's all sorts of institutions on there, including art schools, tech schools, trade schools, community colleges. All those things are housed within Naviance. This is also a way that they can sign up for college visits, which I can't recommend strongly enough. That's when college representatives come, often in person, sometimes virtually, to visit with our students and talk about their programs, but more importantly, give our students a chance to ask the questions that are meaningful to them versus trying to find information on a college website. So it's really tailored to the needs of the students that attend the sessions. And oftentimes it's with the person who's going to be reading their application. So that's a don't miss opportunity that they can also sign up for through Naviance. That's what it looks like. Really, a lot of the things that they're going to need the most are right on that homepage. So colleges I'm thinking about, careers I'm thinking about. Up at the top, you can see self-discovery. So that's where some of those different surveys I was talking about, they live there. So a great place to kind of house all of their things. I know some of our students will start making their resumes on there. It takes a surprisingly long time for them to remember all the things that they've done over their high school career. So to be able to do some of that heavy lifting now is not a bad idea. Yeah, so this is kind of a peek into some of the different college tools we were talking about. Supermatch is the one I was referring to earlier, where the student can plug in different factors that are important to them. So that might be location, distance from home, what majors are available, the size of the campus. We've talked to your students about how that can really affect the college experience, what different activities they offer. There's filters for everything from certain like arts programs, sports programs, Greek life, different clubs on campus. I think it's great to look through too, just for your student to get a sense of what things they might want to start having opinions about in college, about what their college has. Within that as well, there's these profiles for the different schools that are updated regularly. It has deadlines, net price in terms of how much it might expect to cost. The scattergrams we're going to see in a minute are really useful. Thank you. So this is with Cal High specific data. We ask our seniors at the end of their senior year to report how the college admissions process went for them, what the results of their applications were, and that data is used to create these graphs where it shows the outcomes of the college admissions process for students at our school. So this is the only place you could get this information.
Yeah, what's really great about this is when, they're actually in and they hover their mouse over those little green check marks, it'll pop up a little window saying, this student's GPA was this, their test scores were that. And the little blue circle you can see is where your student falls. And so you can kind of, nothing is surefire. There's no guarantee, but it certainly is a good piece of information when you're deciding, is this a reach school? Does this feel like a likely I will be admitted school? Is this a target school? Which are all terms that we defined with your students, by the way. And it's a good piece of information as you're trying to make these decisions.
Yeah, I think it's hard for students and families that the college admissions process is, I would say, more of an art than a science, where nothing is clear cut. There's no black and white like recipe to get a certain outcome. So it's really a research intensive process to kind of look at things from different perspectives and to create a well-rounded list. And we do have opportunities for your students with that. So Yes, like we were saying, there's a college for everyone, nearly 3,000 colleges in our country. The reason we ask how many you can name is one thing that we challenge your students to do when we meet with them to go over the stuff in the fall is to at least try and find a college to do more research about that they haven't heard of, just because the same colleges that have the brand recognition already might get more traction just because we as humans like what we're familiar with. So finding out about other colleges. I know I was at the out-of-state college fair last year, which we are doing again this year, and I was listening to some of these different pitches and the information from the college reps, and I might have gone to a totally different college had I done more research before. There's some really incredible opportunities out there. It just takes an open mind and willingness to look for them. So we say that if there's a college on your list that you're not happy with, it doesn't belong there. If you wouldn't be excited to go there, at every level, your reach schools, your target schools, your likely schools, all the schools should be a college where you could see yourself and see yourself being happy. And if you haven't found that yet, we need to do more looking. So just some food for thought.
And that sort of naturally lends itself to maybe a shorter list. If you think
Yes.
about how many schools can I really have done that kind of research for, and can I really feel that passionately about? I think maybe one of the biggest mistakes I think we see is over applying. And it's not just our students, it's like, I think probably a countrywide thing, which is, kind of making this harder for everybody. So we really do try to want to encourage students to be very mindful about including a college on their list, because each application, implies hours worth of work, and not to mention the money. So we really stress to students and parents that be really mindful about every school that you include on that final list.
Yeah, so some college common myths that we go more in depth about with your junior. Notice that every time it says good, there's the nice little quotation marks around that, because one thing that we stress is there's no such thing as a good or bad college. It's a good college for you. So for me, I probably would not have fared well at a large researched institute. I really like being able to participate in class and talk to the professors. So whereas I know other people, it's like, yes, I want to have that experience and I want to be able to just sit in a lecture and absorb. So learning just looks different. So there's no such thing as a good or a bad college. And even those selective colleges, what they're looking for is they're looking at things holistically. So it doesn't take all A's to get into a college that you'll be happy with. How good a school is not determined by acceptance rates. There are many, many institutions that give wonderful educations, high job placement, that have really strong acceptance rates too, in terms of letting students in that they apply. Really, all a low acceptance rate says is there are more qualified students that apply here than they have room for. Ms. Bellini touched on not needing to take outside classes. You have the time and space at Cal High to take the classes you need. I would say really when those outside classes make sense is if you have a passion that we don't happen to have a class for. So if you really want to dip your toe into what astronomy is, we don't have that class, so that might be a time where it makes sense to do that. But really, when at all possible, you should be taking your classes at school. Not needing to load up on APs. Colleges are wanting well-rounded students, not just students who are strong in the classroom. They want students that are taking advantage of other opportunities, getting involved in their community, and showing leadership. And that doesn't just mean in official capacities. It can definitely be unofficial titles like having a job or responsibilities within the family, different things. I feel like I've already harped on selectivity not meaning success enough, so I'll just let that sit there.
Something I always like to add, and I always stress this with the students as well, is that I think that we in our area get a kind of misled about how hard it can be to get into a good school, because we happen to have some of the most selective universities in the country right here in our area. And it's not like that everywhere. So I think that's just really important to remember that, most schools don't have 5% acceptance rates. That's not how it really is for most colleges, and more than half of the schools in the country accept more than half of the students who apply. And so that's just really important to remember. We just happen to be neighbors with some of those most selective universities in the world. So that's lucky, but also maybe it gives us a false sense of what this is all about.
Yes, so if you're interested to see more in depth of what we talked about with your students, you'll be able to access these slides and access the slides that your students saw. So that's there.
You make lots of slides. Here they are.
We're big slide people in the counseling office. All right, I'll pass
Okay.
it back to you, Becky.
So we're going to have kind of two sections up next. One, planning for college. If your plan and your hope right now is to go straight to a 4-year college and university, and then that will be followed by other options, right? So going to a community college first or trade schools first. And what we really like to start with is that neither one of these paths is better. Just like what Kelly was just saying, it depends on the student, it depends on your goals, it depends on so many factors. Students might feel like we talk more about this plan. And honestly, that's because there's more you need to do in high school to do this. And so we do kind of have to spend a little bit more time talking about requirements and procedures and things to go straight to a 4-year college, because there's more to it. But we are strong believers in learning about vocations and community college transfer options and all of the things. So I really want to make that really clear to everybody listening tonight. We've spent a lot of time over the years on this, what we call senior survival guide, and it goes through the entire process from start to finish of applying to college. When you need to start thinking about certain things, when you can actually start applying, hint, it's not until the fall of your senior year, all of that. So if you're ever, trying to think about, I have a question about my college application, this is a great place for you to start, because we really do keep it updated as things change. We go in and change it. And it's probably faster to see this than wait for a reply, especially if you're kind of up late or over the weekend doing this stuff, waiting for an email reply. The question is probably answered right here. So this is a resource that we really value, and we really try to make sure students and parents know about it. And it's linked here, but it's also linked right in our website as well. So I think one of the biggest questions parents and students have is like, what should I be doing now, right? What am I supposed to be doing, especially for juniors, right? Because this is coming. This is around the corner for you. And so we've kind of laid out in a timeline here some suggested activities for you to be doing. So for juniors right now, I mean, your transcript is important when it comes to 4-year college admissions. It is, right? We all know that. So the best use of your time right now is to focus on your classes and, do as well as you can in a healthy, balanced way. So, work with your teachers, get help if you need it, that kind of thing. You're also researching colleges now. So like we said, we went through the Naviance researching tools with you, I think at the end of last semester. So we'd love to see you getting in there and doing that super match activity. When we present it to students, there's not enough time to go through it really thoroughly, because of course a student finds a school they're interested in and they want to just kind of dig in. So, and we really encourage you to do that. So in our, 1-hour presentation, it's simply not enough time. So go back, maybe sit down with one of your parents or guardians at home and show them what it's all about, so you can kind of maybe do a little bit together. Creating a preliminary list of schools you're interested in. Again, Supermatch kind of helps you with that, because it provides schools that maybe you've never heard of before that are worth investigating for you. We want you to create a resume. It's just a good idea, a good thing to have. So be thinking about, what have I done that's resume worthy? It's not just like paid positions, or you didn't have to start a club, but just think about, how do I spend my time? What skills have I learned, both in my classes and in my life outside of school, that are good things that I can boast about. This is the time where you have to get a little bit used to trying to talk positively about yourself, which I think we're all kind of trained not to do. But during the college application process, you need to be able to do that, right? You need to be able to talk about why you should get the job, why you should get into the school, whatever it is. We're going to talk a little bit SAT, ACT in a little while. I'm just going to say for now, register if needed. Many of you might not need to do that, so we'll talk a little bit about that soon. And then if you think you might need a letter of recommendation, we'll talk about that too. Students, I think we already talked with you about this. All of our California UC and CSU schools do not accept letters of recommendation. It's hard for some people to believe, like UCLA doesn't require a letter of rec. No. So, but private out of state Common App schools typically do. So if you're thinking that I might apply out of state and you've made a good connection with one of your teachers this year, not a bad idea to kind of drop that idea with them before you leave for summer. And then that leads us to summer. So again, remediate any classes if you need to. We'll let you know that during your junior grad check. Virtual in-person college visits if you can. Keep curating that list. Consider how you can fill your summer with non-academic things that also, improve not just your resume, but your life, right? We want you to fill your bucket and make sure you enjoy this last high school summer of yours. And that leads me to that last thing of sleep, relax, read, and, obviously have some fun. We want you to be rejuvenated and rested when it's time to come back to school in the fall. And I'd say fall of senior year, I'm going to say, let's not worry about that quite yet, because we are going to get there. As soon as we come back to school, we do another presentation, kind of like this one, both at school with the seniors and in the afternoon, evening for the parents, to talk about like college application first steps. So that's all coming. We also have some spring workshops in the works. And so things like building your college list. We find that a lot of times seniors haven't really thought much about like the weather, for example, of the place that they're applying. So we have a couple activities that we can do with students to help kind of prioritize, like what is important to me in a college experience, and help you find ways to find colleges that meet those priorities that you've found. And then we do some workshops on writing the college essay. Again, depending on where you're applying, you might need to write some essays. So we will have some workshops offered during tutorial, which is right during the school day, that students can sign up for to learn more about these things. Closer to the end of the year, probably in late April, early May. So that those things are coming, and we'll obviously send emails to you once we figure the dates out for those. Okay. We also have coming up March 20th, an out-of-state college fair. We had this event at our school last year, and it was incredibly successful. We have, what is it, Kelly? Like, how many schools came last year?
I think like 25.
Yeah, something like 25 out-of-state schools came. There is this misconception that out-of-state will always be more expensive than in-state, and that is just not true. So 25 schools come, they do a presentation, and then it's a college fair. Students can go to the tables of all these schools and learn more about them. So really recommend you come to that if you're free that night. And then here we are about SAT and ACT. This used to be so easy to tell you what you needed to do, and then COVID came. So this has changed the landscape for these tests, absolutely. So many colleges have adjusted. Let's say all colleges adjusted. Some are going back to their old policies and some aren't. So there's test blind and there's test optional, and then of course there's test required. Test blind means these colleges are not going to look at test scores. They are not used for admissions purposes. All of our UC and CSU schools are test blind. So if you plan to apply to UC and CSU, and that is all, you do not need to take the SAT or ACT. You do not need to. It will not factor into your admissions. And then you have schools that are test optional that say, send us your scores if you want. And I know that can be a little bit confusing because parents and students obviously want to know, well, should I send the score? Is it a good score? Will it help me? Will it hurt me? And it's not easy to say the answer to that question. The scattergrams can be helpful as you decide this, right? You can look at the school and kind of see how the test scores kind of have been for previous students of ours who have been admitted. But ultimately it is going to be kind of a personal choice. I do strongly recommend you do the research before signing up for the test to see if you need to take it. So we've linked a website there that keeps up to date on college policies, but really the college website itself will be the best place to get the information about whether or not you're required to take one of these tests to be admitted into their school. Okay, so NCAA eligibility, this is for students who want to be eligible to play a sport at either Division I or II school. I'm just gonna really direct you to the links here because this doesn't impact a ton of our students, and it is, there's quite a bit of information here. So if that is something that you're interested in doing, if you've been, talking to coaches, etc., make sure you tell your counselor that information when you have your one-on-one junior grad check meeting in March. because there might be a couple of classes we need to add or just something like that to make sure you're meeting all the NCAA requirements, because they're slightly different than the general requirements. So make sure you let your counselor know, and we'll ask you too, but if that's something that you are either it's already in the works for you or you really hope that it will work out, make sure you let your counselor know. Okay, so this now we kind of shift to non-4-year university track.
Yes, great. All right, so thinking of community college, which I would say is the most popular option of these categories, I would say generally most of our students go to DVC, and then a good amount go to Las Positas, is kind of the community colleges that are local to us. You can't get a better value than DVC. DVC specifically does their what they call FT3. It's first time full-time free tuition. And for students that complete a financial aid application, regardless of their income or your income, probably most likely, they get free tuition. They don't have to pay for their classes. They'll have to pay for textbooks and things, but they do get 4 free terms as long as they are full-time students. So excellent value to get many of those general ed requirements, which is typically what students are taking their first 2 years of college anyway. So getting those for free at DVC. There's more flexibility for exploring majors. You're not declaring a major, you're having some opportunities to go check out different types of classes, which is wonderful. I find that some students feel like have a more supported experience at DVC. The class sizes a lot of times are smaller than some of these large public universities. It is closer to home, and there are some really incredible programs that have a cohort model where they really create a small, close-knit community within the college to support students through their first year. So, for example, for Puente, first year experience, the Umoja program, lots of different programs with the sole goal of helping students be successful at the community college. At these schools, there's opportunities for both certificate programs and degree programs. So there's lots of opportunities at the community college level that might not exist at the 4-year level for the most part. I know DVC has a really robust culinary arts program, and Las Positas, the welding program we're initiating there. So really hands-on training that could allow students to start work earlier, or even be able to start work while pursuing their 4-year degree. So example, DVC's early childhood education program has certificates where students could work and become a teaching assistant while going towards their degree in education. So lots of different things there that are worth exploring. There's of course also the transfer pathways where students could do those 2, sometimes 3 years at the community college before going on to a 4-year university for their bachelor's degree. One thing that I like to clarify that sometimes students ask me is they think that the 2 years at DVC would be before a 4-year college, right? They think it's 2 + 4 rather than you're transferring and it's then 2 more. So a lot of times you're not even delaying the timeline of ultimately getting that bachelor's degree. The last thing that I'll talk about with community college is the transfer admission guarantee, sometimes called a TAG. There's really strong articulation agreements between the community college and 4-year colleges. So they have clearly outlined, if you take these classes with this and get these grades, you are guaranteed admission to many of our UCs and some CSUs, as well as out-of-state schools. So definitely worth looking into, especially for students that have grown a lot in their high school experience. You get a fresh start. So once you're a community college student, they're no longer looking at your high school transcript. You can still get credit if you did well on your AP exams, so you're not losing out on that. But it's a clean slate and a chance to start as a college student with a lot of the experiences that 4-year colleges have too. I know they have study abroad programs as well, which is one thing that our students sometimes don't want to miss, and that's still an option. So that's a little bit about community college. Vocational schools, so some of these programs are at the community college, or there's specialized institutions that will focus on that. So like the Technical Institute, where you could earn an automotive degree, different construction related jobs, culinary related jobs, cosmetology. It's a video worth watching. We won't take the time tonight to play because I know we're being long-winded already, but worth watching. Just please don't believe her when she says that counselors say everyone has to go to college. I promise you, no one in our office is saying that. We also do have the vocational opportunity and career opportunity fair. It's actually at Cal High on March 29th. So we have the out-of-state college fair on the 20th and then this on the 29th. So lots of fairs to learn about what your options your students have for after high school. So don't miss that. It's open to all students. So please come and check out the many programs and community organizations that are representing themselves there. For military and ROTC, we do have information sessions that happen in the Career Center. We also have the ASVAB being administered on March 17th. That's a kind of aptitude test that's associated with the military, but certainly other students not interested in the military could take that as well. It's just to help them. It's another form of self-exploration. If you're interested in either of those things, Ms. Nichols can help get you set up with that, either the ASVAB or talking to a military recruiter about how to pursue that option. So I think we just had someone in our office today that was talking about this. So please talk to Ms. Nichols. She's in the counseling office and she can help you with this.
Okay, so we are wrapping it up. Thanks for hanging in, and we've been going almost an hour. We like to just kind of end with a few like words of wisdom, I guess, when it comes to this process, when it comes to high school graduation and what's next for your student, just how parents can help support their child through this. So one of the things we think is important is keeping information like test scores and GPA and college list private, and just let the student lead the way when it comes to who that type of information gets shared with. I know as parents, we're so proud and we want to share things. So I think that really allowing the student to have full ownership over this process is really beneficial. We like to encourage a realistic range of schools, keeping an open mind about choices, focusing on that fit, right? Really thinking about, is this school going to be a place where you will be successful? And we know that's how we have students who are happy at the end of all of this, right? That they focus on what is good for them, trying not to think about what everybody else is doing or what they're hearing everybody else is doing, which are, as we know, sometimes very different. Keeping the college application list reasonable in length. We talked about this before. Again, that mistake of over applying, it causes a lot of stress. It's expensive. People lose a lot of sleep. And actually, studies show that more choice does not equal happiness. It actually is the reverse. So if you get into all the schools, then you have to choose where you're going. Which is not actually an easy thing to do. So making those choices early on, communicating family values and supporting an ethical approach with all of this is obviously important, and it keeps all of our students remembering what is ultimately the goal here, right? Which is a successful next step for them. And then encouraging fun and rest. And I think we've kind of harped on that a bit here too, of trying to maintain balance and making sure that the senior year is enjoyable. And I always like to remind my students that while it's natural for this to be a stressful experience, excitement should really be the lead emotion here though, right? We're excited about what's next, and stress and fear about what may or may not happen is normal, but it shouldn't be the predominant feeling that we have. So this is what your students are going to hear from us when they talk to us about this at school, just so you know. So we do have a recommended book that Kelly has there. One of the anecdotes she shared with me today was the fact that the goal of high school is not to get into a good college, right? It's the learning that we do in high school and the personal growth that we have during high school that is the goal. But maybe Kelly can talk a little bit more about the book.
Yeah, I really think it's worth a read. It's written for families. There's information both for students and parents, and it's really presented in a digestible way with some actionable things of how to go through this. So if you're looking for some more in-depth information and kind of some of these terms that are thrown around explained in a way that's easier to understand, like what are we talking about when we talk about different decision deadlines? How do we go about college visits? There's really clearly written, user-friendly in this book. So worth a read if you're looking for more information on that topic.
Great. We have a list of our helpful resources. We've really already touched on all of these things. Ms. Nichols in the Career Center is just a wealth of knowledge. And if she doesn't know, she'll find out for you. So whatever it is, she
really goes above and beyond.
She really does. I mean, she goes way beyond what you even realized you were asking, and it's wonderful. Ms. Goldenberg is available for additional support in the Wellness Center. She's got tons of great activities in there to just take a minute if you need it. We also have free tutoring during tutorial learning labs. Students, you probably heard, help in all of the core subjects. So if there's an area where you're kind of struggling a little bit, need some extra help, please ask your teacher to sign you up for learning lab. Again, free tutoring during tutorial right there in the school day. We did post a link here for some pre-submitted questions and answers that people had submitted to us. So that will be available on the slides once they're posted. You can see those. And then we do have a little bit of time for Q&A. Again, we've covered everything we're going to cover. So if you are like, dinner is ready, I'm going to get out of here, you're more than welcome to do so, and we'll continue to record. So Cheryl, did you find any like? I
had a couple that I flagged as wanting to talk about rather than type out. And it was with the general, I feel like, theme of extracurriculars and kind of the non-academic pieces of the college application, just in terms of like, what's better, this or this, or how do we talk about this? And really getting into the nitty gritty, there aren't real answers, it all depends. And the guiding compass that we use is what feels most authentic to your student, what is the most meaningful for them. So whether you're getting X job or doing Y volunteering, I don't think it matters as much as your student contributing in ways that show their values and like what's important to them. So we tell students often it's better to have deeper, more meaningful involvements than signing up for more clubs just so you have more things to say. Right? Colleges want to hear about what you did, but also why you did it and the impact of it, what you learned from it. So kind of letting those questions and guide your student. Will there be financial aid workshops? Yes, we do have those for senior year. It doesn't even open to be able to do until October of senior year. So not much you can do in terms of the financial aid application now. Certainly there's scholarships out there that you could start previewing, but I would say that start with the college list and then let the financial aid, kind of work in conjunction with that.
I just had a couple of questions that asked for clarification on science courses and how many they are allowed to take.
Great, I'll take that. So we do have, we have a limit of 1 core science class per student per year. So, chemistry, physics, AP Bio, AP Chem, all of those core science classes, each student can take 1 of those per year. We're also lucky at Cal High that we have a principles of biomedical science pathway, right? So that's another additional science pathway that we have for students who are interested in thinking about exploring medical careers. So if a student is wanting to take one of those pathway classes, while it does count as a science class, they can take it in addition to one of our core science classes. So in that case, it would be 2, but for everybody else, it's just the 1 core science class.
The computer science, we allow that as a addition, as not a lab science. So you could take that and a lab science as well.
Right. And I will say, I know sometimes these nights create more questions because you didn't know, right? You didn't know all this. And now you have all these questions about these things, and that's totally normal. And so what I want everyone to remember is that each student is going to have a one-on-one meeting with their counselor in the week of March 20th. So as these questions come up for both of you, as you sit down and talk about these things, I recommend that all students start a note in their phone or in their notebook or whatever with all the questions that you have, so that when you sit down with your counselor, you remember what you wanted to ask. And I will usually recommend students take notes in that same note. Sometimes we have students come in with questions that, obviously mom or dad wanted them to ask, and they don't really know why they're asking. Like my mom wanted me to ask this, but they're not really quite sure. So those are good conversations for y'all to have at home. Have your student take notes on what your questions are, so that they can ask us in person when we're meeting. And then after that point, if questions remain, we're happy to chat with you about that.
Kelly, there was a family that was asking about the out-of-state college fair and when we'll
Yes.
have a list of what schools are going to be there.
Yes, so we have a preliminary list started. I was hoping to get a save the date out. It's been a busy week, y'all. I'm hoping to get that out early next week, but I know even last year schools were adding up until the very end. So just because a school's not on the list doesn't mean they won't be there. And truthfully, if you have a college you're really keen on meeting with, I bet you if you talk to Miss Nichols, she will see if they'd be interested in attending.
Okay, it looks like the Q&A is kind of quieted down a bit, and so I think we can wrap up. So we just appreciate your time. We know everyone's busy making dinner and all those things now, and so we appreciate your attention. We've linked a few things here about things that we've already talked about, and again, we are here to support y'all through this exciting process.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, everyone.
Have a great night.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm gonna